There is a street in St. Paul where a Victorian mansion can hold a bakery, a bookshop, and a bicycle repair stand all at once. This is Grand Avenue, a long ribbon of storefronts running through the western neighborhoods of Minnesota's capital city. For more than a mile, it strings together cafes, boutiques, and old brick apartments, most of them tucked into buildings that were never meant to be shops at all. Today, we are riding it end to end on an e-bike, letting the wheels roll past a century and a half of history. Settle in, because this quiet avenue has far more of a story than its shopfronts let on. Grand Avenue sits in the heart of St. Paul, Ramsey County, in the eastern half of Minnesota. It runs roughly east and west, parallel to and just below the more famous Summit Avenue, threading through two beloved neighborhoods. To the east lies Summit Hill, and to the west lies McAllister Groveland, both filling the ground between the Mississippi River and the older core of the city. Our ride begins near the western end, close to the University of St. Thomas, and heads eastward through the commercial spine of these districts. Think of Grand as a main street that never lost its footing, and you begin to understand why locals guard it so fondly. The first thing you notice from the saddle is how compact everything feels. Shopfronts press right up to the sidewalk, awnings lean out over the pavement, and the street trees throw a moving pattern of shade across the handlebars. There are no vast parking lots out front and no towers overhead, just 2- and 3-story buildings at a human scale. People walk here, linger here, and cross mid-block without much hurry. Riding through it, you feel less like a commuter and more like a guest, moving through a neighborhood that has decided, deliberately, to stay a neighborhood. To understand Grand Avenue, you have to go back to the winter of 1890. On the 22nd of February that year, the first electric streetcar route in St. Paul began carrying passengers along this very corridor. Before then, the land west of the old city was open and thinly settled, a spacious stretch that developers eyed as the town kept growing. Electric traction changed everything almost overnight because it made the distance easy and cheap to cover. Where the streetcar went, people and businesses were sure to follow. As the e-bike hums along the center of the street, it helps to picture the rails that once ran beneath these wheels. For decades, a steady procession of electric cars clattered up and down Grand, ferrying shoppers, students, and workers between downtown and the western edge of the city. The rhythm of the neighborhood was set by that line, by its stops and its schedule and its wires overhead. Our ride retraces the same path the cars once took, only quieter and under our own gentle power. In a sense, every trip down Grand Avenue is a small reenactment of the journey that built it. Grand was not alone in this. As St. Paul boomed in the late 1800s, 3 streetcar lines pushed west from the high ground of St. Anthony Hill, running along the parallel avenues of Grand, Rondo, and Selby. Housing spread out to meet the tracks, and commerce clustered tightly along each line like beads on a string. People filled the new neighborhoods, and the businesses followed the people, exactly as the transit planners had hoped. That simple pattern, tracks first and shops after, is written into the shape of the street we are riding today. It is the reason the storefront stands shoulder to shoulder instead of scattered apart. Coasting eastward, the shops slide by one after another in a near unbroken wall. A gift shop gives way to a clothing boutique, then a coffee roaster, then a small restaurant with tables spilling onto the walk. Almost none of these are national chains stamped from a template. Instead, they are independent businesses, many of them local institutions that have held their corner for years. That density of small, owner-run shops is the living heart of Grand Avenue, and it is exactly what the streetcar planted here more than a century ago. Look closely at the buildings and you can read their ages in their faces. Some are purpose-built commercial blocks of dark brick, with big display windows below and apartments above. Their cornices and stone sills speak of the early 20th century, when the avenue was filling in fast. Others are slimmer and quirkier, squeezed into odd lots between their neighbors. Together, they form a continuous street wall that frames the sidewalk and makes the whole avenue feel like a single, connected room. Here is where Grand Avenue does something unusual, and you can spot it from the bike. Scattered among the brick blocks are old wooden houses, gabled and porched, that have quietly become businesses. A front parlor is now a cafe, an upstairs bedroom is now an office, a side porch is now a patio. The homes were built when this was a residential street, and rather than tear them down, the neighborhood folded commerce into them. Riding past, you see history being reused rather than erased. This blending of home and shop is one of Grand Avenue's signatures. Many of its most charming businesses sit inside converted Victorian houses, their turrets and bay windows still intact above a modern shop sign. The avenue has been described as having a high-end Main Street feel, with boutiques occupying both commercial buildings and these old dwellings side by side. The effect is a street that feels historic and lived in rather than polished and new. It is why people come from across the region, simply to wander from door to door. Every so often a cross street opens to the north, and if you glance up the hill you catch a hint of grander things. One block over runs Summit Avenue, the celebrated boulevard of the old St. Paul elite. Grand was always its humbler working companion, the street where the deliveries came and the shopping was done. The two avenues grew up together, the mansions above and the marketplace below. From the saddle you can feel that relationship in the gentle rise of every side street. The wealth that shaped these neighborhoods arrived early. As far back as 1862, the steamboat magnate James Burbank built a grand Italianate mansion on the high ground here, one of the first great houses of the district. In the late 1850s, the first prosperous families had begun claiming the bluffs above, drawn by the views and the clean air. Their fortunes, made in rivers and railroads and trade, paid for the fine architecture that still lines these streets. That old money set the tone, and the streetcar later brought the shoppers to serve it. Back on the avenue, the ride settles into an easy rhythm beneath a canopy of mature trees. Boulevard elms and maples arch over the pavement, and their roots have been part of this street for generations. The sidewalks stay busy with people carrying shopping bags, walking dogs, and pausing at patios. On an e-bike, you move just fast enough to cover ground and just slow enough to catch every detail. It is, quite simply, one of the most pleasant urban streets in the whole state to ride. Just uphill, Summit Avenue holds a record worth pausing for. It is often called the longest stretch of Victorian-era residential architecture in the country, with hundreds of original homes still standing from the late 1800s and early 1900s. Of some 440 houses first built along the boulevard, well over 300 survive today. Riding the neighborhoods below, you are moving through the marketplace that these mansions once relied upon. The grandeur of the hill and the bustle of the avenue are two halves of one story. The buildings we pass are not frozen behind velvet ropes. They are lived in and worked in every single day, which is exactly what keeps them standing. A century-old storefront still sells goods, an old apartment still houses tenants, a former mansion still hosts a busy shop. Preservation here has meant use, not just admiration from a distance. That is the quiet genius of Grand Avenue, a place that keeps its past alive by putting it to work. No building better captures that old wealth than the James J. Hill House on Summit. Completed in 1891, the great stone mansion of the railroad titan stretched to some 36,000 square feet, an astonishing size for a private home. Hill built the empire of the Great Northern Railway, and his house announced that fortune to the whole city. It stands today as a preserved landmark and a reminder of the era that filled these neighborhoods. From the marketplace below, its shadow still falls across the story of Grand Avenue. As we roll westward, the crowd on the sidewalk shifts a little younger. This part of the avenue runs close to two colleges, and their students give the street a restless, hopeful energy. Backpacks and bicycles mingle with the shopping bags, and the cafes fill with people bent over books and laptops. Grand Avenue has long doubled as a college main street, a place to eat, gather, and browse between classes. That youthful traffic keeps the old avenue feeling perpetually current. One of those students long ago would become the neighborhood's most famous voice. The novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald lived in a row house on Summit Avenue, a residence dating from 1889, and it was there that he finished his first novel. He is said to have completed this side of paradise while living on the hill above these streets. Fitzgerald knew this district intimately, its wealth and its longing both. Riding here, you are passing through the very world that shaped an American classic. Slowing the e-bike near a corner, it is worth simply watching the avenue at work. A cafe patio hums with conversation, a bakery door swings open with a gust of warm air, and a line forms at an ice cream window. These small pleasures are the daily rhythm of Grand, the reason people return again and again. The street rewards lingering, and an e-bike lets you stop and start without much effort. On a warm afternoon, few places in the Twin Cities feel more alive. Food and drink have always been central to Grand Avenue's appeal. Longtime favorites like bread and chocolate, Café Latte, and Emmett's Public House have anchored the street for years, drawing steady crowds. Global cuisine, bakery counters, and sidewalk seating give the avenue the feel of a European high street set down in Minnesota. Each cafe becomes a small gathering place, a room where the neighborhood meets itself. It is dining as community, stretched out along more than a mile of pavement. There is a particular joy to browsing this street from a bicycle. You can drift from window to window, reading the hand-lettered signs and the seasonal displays without ever hunting for a parking spot. The e-bike makes the gentle grades effortless, so you arrive at each shop unhurried and unwinded. Locking up takes a moment, and then the whole avenue is yours on foot. For a street built around small, curious shops, two wheels may be the perfect way to see it. Among the shops, a few have become genuine institutions. The Red Balloon Bookshop, a beloved independent children's bookstore, has drawn young readers to Grand Avenue for decades. Stores like it give the street a character that no shopping mall could ever copy, rooted in the tastes and passions of their owners. Generations of families have made pilgrimages here for a single treasured book. In an age of screens and chains, that kind of specialty shop feels almost like a small act of defiance. No ride down Grand is complete without the sweet stops. The Grand Ole Creamery has long served handmade ice cream to summer crowds who spill out onto the sidewalk with cones in hand. A bakery a few doors down fills the block with the smell of chocolate and bread. On an afternoon like this, half the pleasure of the avenue is edible. The e-bike makes it easy to earn a treat and then roll on to the next one. These small food makers are part of what keeps Grand Avenue distinct. An old-fashioned creamery, a from-scratch bakery, a corner coffee roaster, each one is tied to this particular street. Their recipes and their regulars have accumulated over many years, turning simple shops into local landmarks. When people picture Grand, they often picture a cone in hand on a warm June evening. That sensory memory is as much a part of the avenue as any building. The western neighborhoods owe much of their vitality to their schools. Macalester College, founded in 1874, opened its St. Paul campus in 1885 and sits directly on Grand Avenue itself. Nearby, the University of St. Thomas, established in the same decade, anchors the far western end near the river. Between them, the two campuses fill the surrounding blocks with students, faculty, and a steady appetite for the avenue's shops and cafes. The colleges and the commerce have grown up together, each feeding the other for well over a century. Look up as you ride, and you see that Grand Avenue is a place to live as well as to shop. Above many of the storefronts rise three-story brick apartment buildings, built in the early part of the 20th century. Their upper windows are full of curtains and plants and the ordinary signs of daily life. This mix of homes over shops keeps the street busy at every hour, not just during business hours. It is an old formula for a lively city, and Grand has never abandoned it. Those brick apartment blocks are quietly essential to the avenue. By stacking residents right above the commercial floor, they put customers within a few steps of every door. This is the kind of gentle density that transit planners chase today, and that the streetcar era achieved almost by accident. It means the sidewalks are never empty, and the shops always have a neighborhood to serve. The buildings may look modest, but they are the engine that keeps Grand Avenue humming. As the ride opens onto a longer stretch, the whole logic of the street comes together. Shops below, homes above, colleges nearby, and mansions on the hill, all bound by a single walkable line. It is a piece of the old streetcar city that somehow survived the age of the automobile intact. Many American main streets like this one were widened, thinned, or abandoned, but Grand held on. Pedaling through its heart, you are riding through a rare and stubborn survivor. The survival was not guaranteed. By the 1950s, the streetcars that built Grand Avenue were gone, their tracks paved over as buses and automobiles took command. The old cars themselves were hauled to a garage at University and Snelling Avenues, and in the end, burned. It was a common story across the country, as beloved transit systems were dismantled in a single generation. Yet the street they had created stayed behind, its shops and rhythms already too deeply rooted to vanish. The old line has a way of resurfacing. When crews recently rebuilt Grand Avenue for the first time in about 70 years, they tore out the last corroded rails and wooden ties still buried near Macalester College. There, between Fairview and Snelling, the physical bones of the streetcar era came briefly back into the daylight. It was a startling reminder that the avenue's history is not just remembered but literally underfoot. Every rider on Grand today rolls above the ghost of those iron rails. Once a year, the whole avenue throws off its quiet and becomes a stage. Since 1973, the Grand Avenue Business Association has hosted Grand Old Day, billed as the largest free one-day festival in the upper Midwest. On the first Sunday in June, some 200,000 people fill 30 blocks of the street for a parade, live music on multiple stages, food vendors, and even wiener dog races. For a single day, the pavement belongs entirely to people, exactly as it did in the streetcar age. It is the avenue at its most joyful, a whole city crowding onto one beloved street. As we coast toward the end of our ride, Grand Avenue reveals itself as more than a shopping street. It is a living record of how a city grows, one where the streetcar, the mansion, the college, and the corner shop still share a single sidewalk. Nearly a century and a half after the first electric car rolled through, the avenue is still doing exactly what it was built to do. That continuity, that stubborn, ordinary aliveness, is what makes it worth the journey. Thank you for watching. Follow for more of the trails of the world.